mastering the Flying Nun with Audacity. I put on a hat so I didn't see two thumbnails side by side and go, oh, which one's which? So mastering, what is it? Well, after you've mixed a file, an audio file, as we have now done, that's not what you still want to ship out there to the masses. You still need to do a little breathing on it, as they say. So let's jump in here. We exported the Flying Nun.
Can we keep rolling? Yeah. Cool.
I put my keyboard on the screen so you can, if it's not too confusing. Okay, that's what we exported, and we want to pull up Audacity. I got myself distracted. All right, so mastering is easier in the sense that there's fewer tracks to work with. In fact, you only have a single track. It's usually a stereo track. So I'm going to take our mix down, which when we exported the Flying Nun mix down, I'm going to drag that in to Audacity. And in Audacity, I'm going to hit Control S that I did not do on the first time on the mix down. I should have done that like right out of the gate. I'm going to save it as the Flying Nun master as opposed to mix down. Now, what is mastering? Well, mastering is putting that final polish on something before you ship it out to the world, before you put it on a CD, before you put it on Spotify, before you submit it as something that someone can ingest somewhere else so the consumers can consume it. Now, if we look at this, what we're seeing is the left and right representation of the wave.
Can we keep rolling?
I hit spacebar, which you can now see because I put my little keyboard on the screen. Okay, that's where the music actually starts. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to hold down my control key, and I'm going to scroll up so I can zoom in on it, on the amplitude. It's not actually changing the wave file. It's just visually zooming in so I can more easily see. And now I'm moving my cursor out over the wave file, and I can zoom in from here. So it starts right here. I put my cursor on it. Okay. You as a rule of thumb, you don't want your files to start like immediately. You don't want to put your cursor right there and then go. You want to give it a little breathing room. There's countless discussions about how much, but give it a couple seconds, you'll be safe. That would probably be enough right there, but you can always trim it away, but you can't put it back. So I put my cursor where I want my audio file to start. So before I touch anything with my mouse, I'm going to hold down Shift and now drag my cursor over. And so it selects all of that. I can hit Delete. I could hit Control X to cut it. I can whatever. But it automatically just removes that bit of audio that I had highlighted, and it moves the remaining audio to fill in that space. Now if I hit spacebar, that's awesome. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to select that intro region, and I'm going to come up here and to selection. Where's they changed it. Fit to selection. Okay. I just realized they updated that icon. So I zoomed to selection with this little guy up here. Now the shortcut is, was it Shift E or Control E? Control E. Now I've zoomed my selection. There's my intro. I'm gonna select from the first bit of sound all the way to the very beginning, which is that. A whole lot of nothing, but there is some audio there. And I'm going to do a fade in. Right there, boom. So now it starts with utter silence and slowly brings the volume up to unaffected right here. Control, zoom out, go back to the beginning. That's it. I mean, these are like the things that you're paying to have done whenever you send off audio. So if you know how to do it now, save yourself some bucks, right? It's real simple. Now, everything we're going to do is not necessarily all that simple, but you can still cut out a lot of the groundwork for the people that you would otherwise have to pay to do things, such as trimming the ends of your songs. And if you recall, they just kind of end. Well, their request was they just wanted a big fade out on this. It was just sort of a goof, sort of a wag that they recorded this. So I'm going to start there, right in that area. And I'm going to hold down Shift. I put my cursor where I want my audio to absolutely stop. I'm going to hold down Shift and then drag and then hit delete. Okay, so now our audio stops right there. That sounds awful. We want it to fade out. So how much? How far? So I'm just going to arbitrate that. I'm going to say that last, what is that, like almost 10 seconds. I'm going to do a fade out. So I could literally, I don't know what I'm doing. I could literally go to fade out. Bam. Listen to it. Thanks for coming out to the show tonight. Okay, I don't really like that. Do not like it. Two things. One, I want it to be longer, so I'm going to select a bigger portion. I hit Control Z to undo, and it undid my last action. I'm going to select like the last, 20 seconds of this. And then I'm going to go through, let's see, we could do another fade out, but there's also, I apologize, I didn't adjustable fade. S curve down. So this is one kind of fade we could do. So it does like a rapid fade out here, and then it slows down the fade out. And that's a lot more natural sounding. I hit undo, and let's see, there's other filter, never mind. I was thinking of the wrong thing. I apologize. But there, one of the takeaways of what I was just saying there is that there are more than one way to do a thing. I'm just going to put on the regular fade out again. And we're just going to say that's, okay, we've got that, what we want. I'm going to double click so that I have select everything. I'm going to zoom to the full project, or zoom to fit my selection, which are both the same for this right now. And I'm going to go back to zoom out on my amplitude so that I make sure that I see it all. Okay. Now, this is highly dynamic. If you want that, fine. But most times you do not want to ship this out on CD. If you go and listen to this and then pop in a CD of pretty much anything right after it, the CD is going to be much louder. So part of what mastering does is it brings up the overall sound. It amplifies it, but it doesn't just amplify it. It does a little bit of compression on there and then amplifies that. It brings everything up a little bit. So your dynamic range, that is to say, the distance from your softest notes to your loudest notes, are no longer going to be as wide or as different, but it will compensate for a little bit of what might be lost in the playback. When you're listening to things through, say, your car stereo, through your laptop or whatever, if you had like a fully dynamic, rich audio file, it's probably going to get lost on you because you don't have the environment to fully hear it. And you know, like laptop speakers, well, they've got limited frequency response, right? And limited dynamic range. So what we're doing in mastering is we're trying to get it within those confines, so it still sounds full and rich on those laptop speakers, but at the same time still would sound good on radio or somebody's car stereo or headphones. So yeah, it's a lot to factor in, and that's why you usually hire a mastering engineer to do those fine tuning, because that's what they know how to do. But we're looking through here. I'm going to master this with the thought that most people are going to listen in on their radio during a party, in their car while they're driving. A lot of background noise, but not so much they can't enjoy their music. Okay. First of all, I see there's a few audio spikes in there that are just crazy loud. I have everything selected. I'm going to amplify it. Right now it's already peak amplification is 0. Cancel. See this spike right here? I'm going to zoom in on it. So that little spike there means that the rest of the song won't get amplified because it's already, the loudest spike in the song is already hitting 0. So what do we do about that? Yeah, compression. Yeah. I know you were saying compression before I said it. So I'm coming over here to my drop-down menu, and where it says waveform, I'm going to go to waveform dB. Now I'm looking at this in decibel format. So right there, drop down, waveform, boom, boom. We can also look at it in a spectrograph, but that's not going to do us any good, right? Now, we're looking at an algorithmic scale. It's not a linear scale like we were looking at earlier. I'm zooming in, holding down control, using my mouse wheel. That spike is right over here. I'm looking throughout the track. And I'm zooming in on my decibel. Let's go ahead and make things nice and big, yeah. No sense in squinting through a peephole. We have zoom features. Okay. This -60 is the baseline. That's the center. If you go down or above it, it's going to go up to wide open or all the way down, which is basically, think of it whenever your speakers are playing this back. When they push all the way out, that's hitting the ceiling. That's 0 this way. When they're pushed all the way in, it's hitting 0 the other way, or +1 and -1, depending on which scale you are using. Yeah, it gets confusing, I know. So essentially this whole song is hanging out in the -20, well, say -23 range. So I'm going to start it around -25 and compress everything over that. So we've got everything selected, double click. And I'm just going to do a sample range to hear what it sounds like. And get about 5 seconds because that's all we can preview in Audacity. Go to my effects, compressor. My threshold's at, I'm going to set it to 25. I'm going to bump up my ratio to, I don't know, 4.1. Get rid of my noise floor settings. We won't worry about that for right now. Turn off my makeup gain. And preview it. Well, that sounded awful. If you heard, every time it hit something like that rim shot was well over our threshold. That meant it told the compressor, okay, let's compress by a lot, because it went way over the threshold. But did you notice how fast it attacked? It attacked in 0.02 of a second, or 0.2 of a second. So the actual attack hit, but then the compressor said, oh, turn down the volume. And that's where release time comes in. It says, okay, we've been below the threshold for 1 second now. So let's bring it back up to normal. So it took it 1 second to let go, to release once the sound was below that threshold. And we get this sound. And that is what we call breathing or pumping in the compressor world. In the audio world, when we're talking about compressors, when somebody says, oh, I could hear it breathing, I could hear it pumping, that means they could hear that effect, that compressor effect. The more you do this, the more your ears get attuned to it, and you'll start hearing it on everything. Anything that's a professional production, there's been some compression. So the trick is compressing it, but don't let anybody know that you're compressing it. So I'm going to raise my threshold a little bit. And I'm going to, my release time is 1 second. That's as low as I can go in here. So there's my limitation. Let's listen. I raised my threshold. Oh, I'm going to lower my ratio a little bit so it's not compressing so much. I'm going to go down to 2. Okay, it's still not that great. Wrong way. I'm going to jump it on up to just get the spikes. So I notice it really spikes a lot around 15. Let's see what that sounds like. Sounding better. Let's go with that. So I'm going to jump up my ratio again, back to 4. This is a little excessive, but I just want y'all to understand what is happening when we compress. Preview it. Okay, I'll split the difference, go with 3:1 ratio. Now I'm going to cancel because I only have a portion of my audio selected. Cancel. Select all. Effect. Compress. Our settings are still where we left them. What's our ratio? Looks good. I'm going to hit OK. All right. Now that brought down, I saw some of the waves. I'm going to hit undo and then redo just so we can see it happen. Okay, look at the waves when I undo. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So it tamed it a little bit. Now, when mastering programs do this, they actually go through a few steps of compression. They have one compressor set up to take care of all those spikes that happen like 2 or 3 times in a song, and then another compressor set right below it that takes care of, all the remaining spikes, the ones we've now put into control, and all those other spikes that really stand out there, and subtly compress those as well. So it's not just using these major spikes and controlling all of our sound. It's a series of compressors that it goes through, and it subtly brings it down to where you don't notice it so much. And it gives the effect of things sounding much louder than they are when they actually aren't. again, that's why you get the professionals, because they really know all the tricks of the trade, and they can do this in real time. They don't have to do like we're doing, like sample a portion, test it, sample it, test it. They just say, do it all in real time. And, they have an idea of what they want before they get started. They understand their equipment. So I'm going to run another compressor. Compress. Let's just listen. We know we've already compressed it, but... Okay, that sounded awful. Raising my threshold. Preview it. Okay, I'm canceling out of this. I'm betting, because we didn't listen to the whole song. I didn't listen to the whole song in the mix down, and I didn't listen to the whole song when we were testing our compressor. So let's listen to it without anything. See, that's a little more than I can abide by. So I'm going to undo our last compressor and only focus on getting these big spots, which are like starting at, I'm going to say 7. Whoops. All right, so compress, effect, compressor, set my threshold at -7. Fairly aggressive. Attack time, I want it to be pretty immediate. I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to, while everything's selected, I'm going to hit a compressor again. Going into -9, just lowering my threshold a little bit. Now if you notice, I've got everything to hit makeup to 0. After it's compressed it, I'm going to have it what we call normalize, bring the highest point back up to 0 and amplify everything else accordingly. Theoretically, we could set up a compressor that compresses at -1 and then renormalizes everything and run that again, and it'll slowly like compress everything up. Let's curiosity. Let's see what this sounds like. Sorry, I'm zooming all over the place. Zoom to the full track, zoom out on my amplitude. Where's that drum? Okay, so that seems to be working pretty well. I don't recommend doing it like this, but we can just repeat the compressor. Oh, I didn't select my audio. So I'm going to repeat that same compressor setting. Because remember, it compressed it and then boosted it up. Let's listen. Okay, I'm hearing the compressor a little bit. It's not that great, but you get the idea. And also, this is not necessarily in this order. This is also when we would do... Oop, I didn't select a region again. I'm going to do an EQ. So there's this. Now, what I know, and you may not know, is this is your standard 31 band EQ. You work with them a while, you learn what does what, but the low end, 20 hertz, nobody's hearing that. You want to boost your lows down here. Very common when this right here is your kind of punch or your low boom or high boom kind of thing. You learn what these frequencies really sound like. If you really want to know, just tweak one of them out. I'm going to take 800 hertz and really boost it. Now we're going to know exactly what 800 hertz sounds like and how it affects a mix. I'm going to carve it out. So when I really crank it up, it sounds almost, hello, my honey, hello. It's like that box sound on there, and you carve that out, and it gets this sort of, I don't know, synthetic kind of hollowness to it. So these frequencies here, this is like a lot of presence frequencies. Let's listen to that. Whoa, boy, I really overshot those. And this is the thing I do not like about Audacity, is that you can't just sit here and adjust these in real time while you're playing the music. You've got to like tinker with it all. So you get the idea there. And once you get what you want, you can apply it. You can also do all these other effects that you see in here. The ones that you're going to use probably the most in Audacity: compression, equalizer, maybe some reverb if you want to do that. But it's really good for also doing batch files. If you have like, I just recorded a book of flute etudes. So that's 51 pieces played on flute, and they all sound identical because you have a person playing the same instrument with no accompaniment, etude after etude after etude. If I were using Audacity to do my mastering, what I could do is go through and decide, oh, this is what makes it sound the way I want it to sound, and set up a list and actually make a chain of, make a macro, essentially, that will automatically, it'll be an automated process. It will open up each file, apply all the affectations that I want, all these effects, such as normalize it, compress it, EQ it, etc., and then export a file when it's done. Audacity is great for that, and just for quick edits, like you want to trim up a piece. So that's what we could do with this. One of many things. I use this a lot at the university. I used to use it extensively for all of our recitals. Once the recital was done, I'd bring in an hour-long recital, and then looking at the wave, I could tell pretty much exactly where all of the pieces were performed, and I could chop off all the excess downtime when the performers walked out and come back in. No one's necessarily wanting to hear that. They just want to hear the pieces that were performed. And looking at the wave file, you can go, oh, there's applause, there's a song, there's applause. There's applause, there's a song, there's applause. And just trim it all out, and then export that really long, hour-long wave file into a dozen individual pieces that were performed, so that someone could just listen to that one piece very quickly. Or I could send it to the radio station, and they knew exactly which pieces were which. They didn't have to listen through an entire performance to hear one piece. So at any rate, this is what we're going to say. This is good. Oh yeah, I selected all the way to home. I'm going to go to home, hit space, double check it, and our ending's good. All right, and then I export it. All right, I'm hitting hotkeys that I've changed. Export audio. I could have hit export wave. So I'm going to call this Flying Nun Master. You can fill this stuff in if you want. I forgot to remove that. That's actually one of the people I do a lot of work for. Silver spoons. Hit OK. All right, so I'm closing this out. Let's listen to some back to back. Here's our mix down.
Can we keep rolling? Yeah. Cool.
Now let's listen to our master. So for this particular one, wasn't a great deal of change in the volume, but it did help clean it up. We got all of that, rid of all the junk at the beginning. We made it more professional come in and out. We've helped out with the dynamics a little bit, and yeah, just improved upon it. And this is very quick and easy to do with free software that works really well. And we have not scratched the surface on the stuff you can do in Audacity, but those are some of the more common things that you will encounter and things that you can use. It's really good if you're using it in conjunction with, a lot of times I do audio, I adjust my audio for some video projects that I'm doing, and I could just quickly bring in an audio sample, clip it. I've got a sample of someone talking. I just want like 3 seconds of what they said. I drag it in here, find that 3 seconds, make that an audio file, bring it back to my video project. If I want to do effects, I want to put in, I've done a lot of like short movies where you have like the samurai sword sound coming out, shring, and stuff like that, and I need to adjust it in pitch, or I need to adjust it in time, or add reverb, whatever. You can do it all right there in Audacity. Pretty good software. So, again, as always, if you have questions about it, just get in touch with me. I'd be more than happy to talk about it in class time. I would love it if y'all have some stumbling blocks you would like to discuss with everyone else around, so that, because you never know who else might be having those same stumbling blocks and they just haven't even thought to address it. All right, I will see you around next time. Take care.